Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming pattern for you guys. So, thank you for watching this video today. As you can see, As you can see, we have a band of snowfall here over the northeastern United States. That'll be moving throughout the day. You could see an inch or so of accumulation, maybe probably a little bit more in the mountains. Other than that, we basically don't have anything else to talk about on the current radar, as the only other really thing is some scattered rain showers across the Four Corner states, or the Utah, Arizona, and Nevada, across the western two of the Four Corner states and Nevada. So that's it. We do have a little bit of lake effect snowfall moving through. I do believe that's lake effect snowfall. So that's it for that. So here we have the GFS model, and it's gonna be taken through the current pattern. We have this ridge in the west, trough out in the east, and this is bringing some really cooler temperatures out into the eastern United States. And we have this system move offshore with that. And as this ridge, it continues to move out towards the east. So really it shifts more east, and then we get this pattern of troughing out west, ridging out east. So models continuously show ridge out east, trough out in the west. That's the general pattern of what we've been seeing. We have that little system move through, and it brings more zonal flow. Not really much. We have a little bit of a ridge out west and a slight trough in the east, but overall nothing too much, nothing too significant. We kind of get this more zonal flow, really zonal, except for a slight ridge in the central states. It's just generally not really anything too defined until we start to get to this pattern where this system moves through, and then we see a really big ridge start to build out east and a really big trough build out west. Look at this massive ridge in the east, trough out west. We have all this warmer air flooding the eastern states, and we have all the colder air flooding the western states. We have this 990 millibar low, as you can see here. A warm front over top with a cold front, allowing for all this funneling of cold air. And we do have some storms on the line and a little bit ahead of the line, so that would be concerning for a severe weather threat, especially as it really intensifies in the southern states like Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Although this is a really long time out, so it's not like anything for certain. And then we see this next Arctic blast move through the eastern states. We have a really big trough in the east and a ridge out west. Nothing too unusual from our usual winter pattern right in this frame. However, we do got to account for how this is like the last frame of the model run, so things could switch, but as of now, what it's looking like is this ridge out west, trough out east by the end. However, in between the later part of this month and the earlier part of this month, we could see a warmer pattern prevail out in the east. We have the Euro model that we also have to go over. I'm going to have to set it back to an older run so that we can actually get all the hours. We have the current pattern once again, this was the current pattern a little bit ago. This was like last night. Excuse me. We had this trough out east, but a really massive ridge. In the western states, we had all this warm air flooding in, some of it from the Gulf of Mexico for the plains, and then some of it from the Pacific and tropical areas for the west. And then as we move on here, it kind of is showing just like more of a ascending flow for the east, so more of a slight ridge and a slight trough, but nothing too major. And then we kind of see this flow just really go like really zonal, and that's just like really no major temperature differences. And then we see kind of a little bit of that Arctic blast that we were talking about, although it's not too significant. And then we have this pattern of a massive ridge in the central states reaching all the way up into Canada. And then as that ridge moves all the way out to the east, we do see a little bit of a severe weather setup for the eastern states. And as all this moisture is funneling up from the Gulf, we have this intense line of storms forming. This could bring some severe weather impacts for those states. And I don't know. I mean, both models are showing a severe weather setup here. So that's interesting to see agreement on that. And then the Euro shows another line of storms forming a low pressure system. We've got a little bit of cold air being ushered in on the backside. We do have a very noticeable warm front out ahead of the line, making all this warm air go way up north into the states like North Carolina, Tennessee. Uh, this area would be an area of interest out ahead in the warm sector, especially whenever storms get ahead like this. And then especially this triple point area where you have the low pressure system, the warm front, and the cold front. This triple point area will definitely be an area of interest if this setup were to occur, even though it may not. So towards the end of this model run, we see really a zonal flow. We do get not really much at all here. So let's look at a long range model, see if we can determine the pattern in the long range. Obviously, this is not a given. So as this ridge, this is pretty much what all the models have been signaling for towards the 10th of this month, somewhere around that time frame. A big ridge will enter the United States, bringing much warmer temperatures. And then another little Arctic blast comes through, brings a little system to the northeast. This is the CFS model, though. We do have more of a trough out west, ridge out east type of look, though, this southeast ridge. And this storm system, what the Euro has been showing with the storm setup there. And then definitely an interesting setup as we see a little bit of a trough start to develop over the central states. And then it kind of moves towards the eastern states as we have a ridge out west, trough out east once again here on this run, allowing colder air to funnel southward. We do have another Arctic blast coming through on this model around the 22nd. A very intense trough and then a pretty intense ridge. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is just some general guidance on what could happen. It's really more of a suggestion than a forecast. And then we have a massive ridge out west, a slight trough in the central states, and more of a ridge out east. So the entire nation, except for this area, would be in a warmer than normal condition, I guess. And then we have a very intense Arctic blast shown on this run around the 8th of March. However, this is really far out. So I just want to say that runs this far out are definitely going to have inaccuracies in them. Almost 100% of the time. These runs may not even end up playing out, but almost 100% of the time, these are very inaccurate. See, this is March the 10th. And as you can see, we have a little bit of a trough out east and a massive ridge out west. So they have their inaccuracies almost 100% of the time that far out, especially since that was like a month out. That is really something that you don't want to take as like a 100% forecast. So we have the temperature anomalies that we're going to be taking a look at. This is compared to average. This is not actual temperatures. We have this big wall of cold temperatures. But as we move through the daytime today, you're going to notice something interesting. You're going to see that kind of pushes out, and then even some warmer air is starting to dominate out in the southeast here. And then by the time we're reaching tomorrow, we have another cold blast coming through, bringing some renewed cold air. You can see this just clean pocket of cold air. No interruptions in this cold air diving southward. And then as this kind of moves out to sea, we get another warm push out east, although it's nothing like dominating. And then it kind of comes out east where it really starts to, you can see some colder anomalies starting to build on the west coast here. And that's usually a sign uh, of a colder west to come. So we also have all this warm air starting to build out east, and it really is starting to dominate now. We also have more colder air on the west coast here, starting to push more inland. And then we have this really warm anomaly in the southeast as well. And then we start to see a cold push into the Ohio Valley in the northeast here. Although the warmth is still building in the southeast and it's still kind of sitting around there. And then we still have these colder anomalies building off the west coast, although not as intense as it was previously. And then we start to see this cold blast move in once again. So it's not like this warm pattern is just going to dominate the east. We're also going to see cold blasts moving through, but we also see some colder anomalies starting to pop up out west. And that is a little bit concerning if you're a cold and snow lover for the east. And then we see this renewed surge in the cold once again. And then these warmer anomalies start to really show up in the central United States. We kind of have this building of cold air both out west. And then we see the warm really starting to take over at this point. We really don't have much cooler anomalies out in the eastern states, save a few spots along the coast and a few isolated spots in other areas. But generally speaking, this area is going to be the warmest during this time, really the Midwest and the plains through portions of the Ohio Valley. And that's really going to be the warmest during this time. And then we start to see colder anomalies really building out west, especially that Sierra Nevada area. And then we really start to see these cold air really building out west. It's kind of just like set itself in. And then this warm air has really dominated the east at this point. Although we do see something interesting happening at this point. We have a little bit of cold air shifting to the southeast. And that's something interesting to look at. This is really one of the only ways that the cold air could really make a comeback. Although all this cold air out west is not really looking favorable for more warm or cool air out east. Although it could happen, I'm not saying it can't. It's just looking less favorable with all that cold air out west. And then we also have a bunch of warm air out in the eastern states here. So that's the GFS temperature anomalies. Now we can look at the actual temperature, 2 meter above ground level temperature. Let's even factor in the wind barbs. That would be cool to do. So you can see here we have temperatures in the 30s and 20s and even into the teens out east right now. We really have a flow really from like the northwest kind of in the east, and then we really have a northerly flow out in the Gulf. You can also clearly see this area of low pressure here out to the coast, because you can see the winds are circling counterclockwise there. And then we really have a more northerly flow in the plains, although a slight southerly flow in the southern plains. But really, we have like 50s, 60s in the plains right now. That's really warmer anomalies building right now, especially out west. You can see areas in California already experiencing temperatures in the upper 60s, lower 70s, maybe even into those mid and upper 70s in some areas. And as we move along, you can see this system brings this cold front along with it. And it really is trying to bring all this, funnel all this cold air down into the east. And that's what it's going to do. I mean, if you can see, the freezing line makes its way all the way down into like northern Georgia, North Carolina, all these areas. The freezing line is well offshore in the northeast and the mid-Atlantic here. So then we start to see this warm push. You can see, even though it's during the daytime, it's further north than it would be in a colder pattern for the east. And then you can start to see the freezing line pushing down into areas of Washington, into the Rockies, southern Rockies even. And then you see this really big warm push, areas in the 80s in southern Texas, 70s for much of the south, and even in the central plains. And then we keep on moving, and this warmth kind of fades out to sea. We really see the cold start to take back over at this point. We have a very prominent trough out east. We also have a little bit of a low pressure system here. This is 900 something millibars. So a really intense low here. This is in like the 980s and 970s. So we have that intense low pressure system, and it kind of sits off the coast a little bit. And then it kind of moves out. And then we have this warmth start to push back east. You can see this low pressure system kind of took this warm front and the cold front, and this warm sector really starts to push way up north. You can see we have southerly flow, which means winds coming out of the south. And in this warm sector, you can see it's really pushing this warm air. It's really trying to get this warm air north. And then we can kind of see the cold trying to move south again. However, this southerly flow is kind of preventing that. Although we do have a little bit of northerly flow, and then there's when the model run ends. So, yeah, that's interesting to look at there. Day one. So this is today. We could have some mixed precipitation and snow showers across these regions today. Also, snow showers for much of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. We do have some heavier showers of snow for areas in the Appalachian Mountains. Tomorrow, we have snow for a lot of the Northeast and much of the Great Lakes and much of the Mid-Atlantic. We also have some Rocky Mountain mixed precipitation. That just shows how warm it's been out west. Mixed precipitation in the higher elevations. Day 3 outlook. So this would be, what would this be? So I believe today is Friday. So this would be Sunday. And we have a lot of snow showers for these areas here. And then we have a lot of mixed precipitation and freezing rain for areas in Minnesota. We have a lot of mixed precipitation for the Northwest as well, a big area of that. Even some for areas in the desert Southwest. That's the mountainous areas mostly, getting all that mixed precipitation. And then we have the Climate Prediction Center. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook. We have what just happened. Anyways, we have this a lot of this warmer air into the central and eastern states. We don't really see any cold anomalies out east, but we do see some out west. So this is not the best look if you like cold and snow, especially if you're in the eastern states. We do see a lot of above normal precipitation though for everywhere north of this line. And then just a little spot here in southern Texas. This is towards like Brownsville. that is below average. So really, everywhere above this line is above to average for precipitation. Literally everywhere, in the United States at least. So we have that going on there. That's pretty interesting. We had the 8 to 14 day, so this is 13th through the 19th. We really start to see this pattern take over, especially this area out west where we see the colder air really starting to build. We do have this above average precipitation still dominating, though more areas in the south are popping up. So that'll do it for today's video, and if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. You should check out EpicPen. They have this stuff for $2 a month. You should really consider it. This is the free version, or you can get it for $2 a month. You should consider it. So thank you for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.